In the world of competitive esports, it's usually common for players to have at least one big accomplishment in their career, or at least dreams of one. For some, that's just a small little regional title, but for others, it's something bigger. Some players want to go for the ultimate prize, which usually is an international championship. In the world of League of Legends esports, however, there isn't much international competition as there used to be. Back then, there were countless tournaments hosted by orgs such as ESL, MLG, and IEM. Nowadays, there are two major international tournaments. There is the Mid-Season Invitational, which takes the top team from each of the major regions, plus the wildcard regions, determined by each league's respective spring split champion, and having them compete for the title. Then there is the big one, the World Championship, which is a little bit more complicated. Worlds takes the top 3 teams from the 5 big regions determined by the 2 finalists of that year's summer split and a 3rd place team, usually determined by a regional gauntlet bracket, and 1 or 2 teams from the wildcard regions. Both of these events have 3 stages, the play-in, the group stage, and the knockout bracket. The play-in usually includes the wildcard teams, with the top 1 or 2 teams going into the group stage. Here is where most if not all of the major region teams are, and ironically is where most if not all of the wildcard teams are knocked out at. Usually, well, let's say hypothetically, the main region teams thin out the wildcard teams by the knockouts, where the best of the best go head to head until one team stands dominant. It's not uncommon for a sports league to have 1, 2, or maybe even 3 teams who dominate the competition, and that usually means no other teams get a shot at winning big. But for one moment, at the 2018 Mid-Season Invitationals, one man got to have a shot at winning big amongst the big teams. That man's name was Zhangji Hao, but you probably know him by a different name.
Listen to France as they are cheering for Uzi. Royal never give up in elation.
But in order to understand what is actually going on here, we're going to have to go back a little. We have to go back to the year 2012. In the world of esports, one brand new team was coming up in the Chinese League of Legends scene. This team was known as Royal Club. This team included a top laner named Moore, who had recently played as a jungler for the team eHome, Lucky, who had played on the same team as a support player, a rookie mid laner named Zhao Wei Zhao, Tabe, a player who had played AD carry for Invictus Gaming, and a rookie AD carry named Uzi. Uzi was a player who prided himself on his mechanics. Later in his life, he would develop himself to be one of the best players in the world, but at this time, he was just a rookie player. The team would participate in the 2012 G League. This was basically an old tournament that included a group stage and an elimination bracket. Royal Club would go 2-1 in their group and defeat a team called Invictus Gaming Young to advance to the semifinals, where they would be defeated by Team WE 3-1, who was at the time in the middle of a Chinese dynasty. However, because of their 3rd place finish, they were given an invite into the first LPL season. Royal Club would have a mediocre first season, going 15-13 and finishing 5th. Due to this, they couldn't go to the playoffs. However, they were able to stay in the LPL and avoid relegation. They would pick themselves up by summer and finish 2nd in the league, including defeating Team WE 3 times, who were at the end of the dynasty and on the decline. They would have to forfeit their playoff spot, but would still be invited into the Season 3 World Championship. During this event, the top seeds from Korea, China, Vietnam, and North America would be given a bye to the elimination bracket, which meant that everyone else would have to play in the group stage, and because Royal Club was the first seed from China, they got to go past the group stage and into the playoff bracket. This group stage had a lot of interesting things happen. SK Telecom T1, the 3rd seed from Korea, and oh my god, the 2nd seed from China, would absolutely dominate Group A, that included Lemon Dogs, an old roster from EU, and Gaming Gear EU, the wildcard seed of the tournament, and TSM. Now around this time, People were starting to realize that Koreans were really good at the game, and because of this, some teams decided to go to Korea and boot camp and practice solo queue to get a feel for the type of play in the region. TSM was different, as Reginald, the owner of the team, decided to stay back in America to live that hashtag BayLife Squad Fam Hype Gang Beast Mode lifestyle, and ultimately paid for it in the group stage, going 2-6 and finishing 5th, earning themselves a one-way ticket back to Los Angeles. Oh wait, their team house was in New York. My bad. Anyway, Royal Club would be mashed up in the quarterfinals against Oh My God, where they would defeat them 2-0. They would advance to face Fnatic, who had dominated their group going 7-1. Royal Club would defeat Fnatic convincingly 3-1 and advance to the finals. Keep in mind, this was a team that just started in 2012, late 2012 actually, now making it to the finals of the most prestigious playoffs that League of Legends has in just a little less than a year. The last opponent would probably be the hardest challenge yet, SKT. This was a roster that included Impact, Piglet, Bengi, Pumandu, and Faker. Royal Club would not stand a chance against SKT and would get swept 3-0. This would be the first in many world titles for SKT, and would be the first time Uzi would lose at Worlds. The next big opportunity for Royal Club would come at the 2013 World Cyber Games. This was an event that is regarded as the Olympics of esports and is still going on today. What was interesting about WCG is that the representative teams had to include players that were all from the same country. This meant that teams had to switch rosters around for them to compete. There's another video that goes more in depth with this that I will link in the description, but for now, let's get back to the video. Each region had teams go through a qualifier to be the country's representative. China was lucky as they were able to send 2 representatives. Royal Club was sent in through the LPL 2013 spring season. They would be seated in a group with Positive Energy, a team named Star, and a team named VC Gaming. Royal Club would go 2-0 in the group, advancing to the bracket, where the finalists would go to the event. They would defeat a team called Rising Stars Gaming 2-0. They would then have to face Team WE, which they would be defeated by 2-1 and sent to the 3rd place match against Team Livermore, which they would win 2-0. An interesting thing to note is that in this series, Uzi would actually play jungle, which is a pretty weird thing to say nowadays. However, despite finishing 3rd in the qualifiers, Royal Club didn't qualify for the World Cyber Games. Uzi would move back into the AD carry position, and Royal Club would go on to put up a pretty disappointing 2014 spring season, finishing 6th with a 9-19 record. They would finish the summer split at 3rd and finish the playoffs at 3rd, which allowed them to qualify for the regional playoffs, which they would end up winning and advancing to the World Championship. They would go into the World Championship as the 2nd seed, along with the 3rd seed OMG and the 1st seed Edward Gaming. They would be placed in Group B along with the number 1 seed from NA TSM, the 3rd seed from EU SK Gaming, and one of 2 LMS representatives and former world champions Taipei Assassins. Royal Club would win 5 out of the 6 games, only dropping 1 game to TSM and finishing at the top of the group. Royal Club would be matched up against EDG, who they would defeat 3-2 and advance to the semifinals. They would be matched up against the other Chinese team, OMG. Meanwhile, on the other side of the bracket, 2 sister teams were facing each other to go to the finals, so I guess we got the better side. I guess. Anyway, Royal Club would narrowly win this series 3-2 and advance to the finals. Their last opponent would be another Korean team, Samsung White, considered the favorites of the tournament. Royal Club have been in this position before. Hopefully history will not repeat itself, right? Oh. Royal Club would be stomped 3-1. But hey, at least they won a game, right? This would be the 2nd time Uzi would lose at Worlds. Because of this, he was pissed off, so he quit the team. Uzi would join OMG for the 2015 spring split. OMG would finish 3rd in the season at 8-11-3 back when you could tie in the LPL. Despite finishing 3rd, They would see a disappointing early exit from the playoffs at the hands of the 6th seed, LGD, 3-0. 2015 summer would be even more disappointing for OMG, as they would finish 7th with a 5-11-6 record. Because of this, in order to get to the playoffs, they would have to play through a gauntlet to get to the final stage. They would defeat a team called Masters 3, ironically 3-0, but would go on to be defeated by VC Gaming 3-1. The next big event was the IEM Season 10 World Championship. Uzi would join a team in this event named QGR. This team was made up of a top laner named V, a jungler named Swift, a mid laner named Doinby, who you probably know from Fun Plus Phoenix, who won the 2019 World Championship, and more as support, his former teammate from Royal Club. QGR were the runners-up from the previous event, IEM Cologne. This event was interesting as instead of a group stage round robin, 2 teams were placed in 2 separate brackets, and the top 2 from each bracket would go on to the playoffs bracket until 1 team remained. QGR was placed in the B bracket, first facing Fnatic. QGR would defeat Fnatic and advance to the second round where they would face SKT. SKT would end up winning this and send QG down to the losers bracket where they would have to face Fnatic again. QG would lose the series 2-1. In the 2016 spring split, QG were placed in Group A. Due to the size of the LPL, now 12 teams, they were placed in 2 6-team groups. QG would finish the regular season at first with 11-5 record. However, this is Uzi, and of course, Uzi is cursed. QG would have to forfeit their spot to EDG because they were unable to bring up a full roster, as not one of their 4 mid laners were able to play. Dade hadn't been registered with the team by playoffs, Mortred had gotten a hand injury, Doinby had a conflict with the team, and Borisal was unable to arrive at the venue on time. I still find it absolutely nuts that QG had 4 mid laners and not one could play in the playoffs. Uzi had been in the pro scene for nearly 4 years, and not once has he won internationally. Not even regionally. When a man has never won, he's got nothing else to lose. So, he went golden. Uzi would jump to Royal Never Give Up. He would stay on this team for the rest of his career. This was a team that included Looper, MLXG, Zhaowu, and Mata, all seasoned veterans who have been around the block. With this new squad, Uzi took them into the LPL and came out first. In the playoffs, they would face against IMEI and narrowly beat them 3-2. This is it. This was Uzi's time. All those years of hardship were about to pay off. Come on, Uzi, you can do it. Good grief, not again. Despite their loss, RNG would qualify for Worlds 2016. They would be placed in a group with Samsung Galaxy, TSM, and Splice, an old team from EU. RNG would have a pretty mediocre group stage, finishing 3-3, but qualifying for the elimination bracket. They would be matched up against SKT, who would defeat them 3-1. This is the 3rd Worlds in a row Uzi would go to, and this is the 3rd Worlds in a row he would be sent back home at without a win. Uzi would be invited into the 2016 League of Legends All-Star Event 1v1 tournament. This was a 16-person tournament where each player would compete 1v1 on Howling Abyss to win the game. The game was won by either killing your opponent one time, gaining 100 CS, or destroying the first turret. We won't be going through this much because this was a friendly for fun tournament, but Uzi would actually win this tournament plus the 2017 tournament, being the first and only player to win back-to-back 1v1 tournaments. He would be eliminated in the 4th round by EU mid laner Caps in 2018, and would make it to the finals of his most recent 1v1 playoffs in 2019, but would lose to EU top laner Bwipo. That's all I'm going to talk about this event, but if you want to see the matches, you can go search them up for yourself on YouTube. By the time the 2018 spring season came around, it seemed like it was going to be another regular year for Uzi and RNG. They actually had a pretty shaky start to the season, going 2-4 by week 3, but eventually they were able to rebound, finishing third in their group at 12-7, and once again went to playoffs. Uzi would start off by defeating Team WE 3-0. They would then defeat Snake Esports 3-1 to advance to play Invictus Gaming. This was the number 1 team in their group, who was on a tear of their own throughout the season, only dropping one match going 18-1. Their only loss? RNG. RNG would narrowly defeat Invictus Gaming 3-2 to advance to the finals against EDG. However, Uzi is cursed, right?
All they need to do now is dot the I's, cross the T's. RNG, they have set themselves up to win.
Where were you when history was made? Because here comes Uzi.
The curse lifted. The prophecy has been fulfilled. Uzi now reigns as king. Royal, never give up. Champions, and they will take on the world at MSI.
The king has been crowned, and Double Lift, Prey, Reckless, can you afford to take the throne from him?
RNG defeated EDG 3-1 to win Uzi's first LPL title and earning himself his first ever ticket to the mid-season invitationals. RNG would be placed in a group along with LMS's Flash Wolves, LCK's Kingzone Dragon X, EU's Fnatic, NA's Team Liquid, and Vietnam's EVOS Esports. Both NA and Vietnam would perform disappointingly, finishing 4-6 and 2-8 respectively, with NA only losing out because they lost a tiebreaker with Fnatic. Meanwhile, RNG would finish at the top of the group, tied with Flash Wolves. They would play a tiebreaker which RNG would win and cement themselves as the number 1 seed going into the playoff bracket. They would have to face off against Fnatic, who they would defeat cleanly 3-0. Then, they would have to face Kingzone Dragon X.
Still be on cooldown for a short amount of
Then, the play that would change League of Legends forever.
time. Shahu is on his way for him.
Oh, that's straight onto Prey! Ball of the Forge God comes out as well as Killer Instinct. Royal never give up on doing it! They get a double kill on Uzi. They're looking for the tower.
All game with eyes on Gorilla, and RNG spent everything to finally hit him first.
2 seconds on that QSS, but it wasn't ready in time. They're pushing now into the base. Shahu on his way back to TP.
Look at the death timers. It's 40 seconds on BDD. It's 33 on Prey. Peanut's trying to cut the wave. The inhibitor turret is the focus, and now is Peanut. Ragnarok to try and escape. The inhibitor will fall middle. There goes Let Me Solve. It's caught up by Khan. Khan gets jumped
do
by.
it.
He's got the ultimate available. Gorilla is not going to be able to save him. And Kingzone
They're doing
Face
it.
is in tatters for the first time ever. RNG is chasing success. Royal never give up. Rule the world. Winning MSI 2018.
For the first time in his career, Uzi, after so much hardship, had finally done it. He had finally captured the crown that he had been dreaming of, defeating DRX 3-1. He had finally won his international title. Unlike a lot of other teams after a big championship win, Uzi would continue his success into the 2018 Asian Games, which is similar to the World Cyber Games, however it is mainly around the South Asian region. Uzi was on Team China, who had players like Xie, who you probably know from LGD today, and MLXG, and they were placed in a group along with Team South Korea, Kazakhstan, and Vietnam. China would perform decently, finishing 4-2 and making it to the playoffs along with South Korea, who finished at the top at 6-0. China would be placed against Chinese Taipei. They would defeat them 2-1 and advance to face Korea. China would end up winning this series 3-1, being Uzi's second international win. Going into 2018 summer, RNG was seen as heavy favorites going into the season, as they were the winners of the last season and MSI. By week 4, it seemed like it was going to be the case, as RNG was 7-1. By the end of the season, RNG finished second at 14-5 behind Invictus Gaming. They would defeat Top Sports Gaming 3-1 and face Rogue Warriors, who they would defeat 3-1 to advance to the finals. They would have to face Invictus Gaming in the finals, who finished top of the LPL season at 18-1. Their only loss? RNG.
Now it's chaos for Invictus Gaming as they are falling apart. Flash over the wall. Jackie! Proud. Jackie!
Oh my God!
I cannot believe it! Xiao looking for another kill. Name goes down. Jackie onto the GA. Goes down! Royal never give up. Have done it!
RNG might have just won the game. They've got 40 seconds. So many dead. Just the shy left. It requires a miracle to stay in it.
There's no way he teleports to go back in there. Too much to deal with.
The shy. One man against an army. One man against all of China. Cannot hold his ground. He dies. And RNG today, they sat down as players. But after this, they will rise as kings. Long may they reign. Royal never give up. Or your 2018 LPL champions.
You could feel it, man. Uzi's camera when the kills came through.
This was ludicrous. Not only had RNG captured an LPL spring title and an MSI title, they had won the summer split as well. It seemed like RNG was going to sweep the season. All that was left for Uzi and RNG was the coveted Worlds title. Worlds 2018 would start out well for RNG, being seeded against the number 3 seed from NA, Cloud9, the number 2 seed from EU, Vitality, and the number 3 seed from Korea, Gen G. This seemed like an easy group for RNG to get out of, and it seemed like it as RNG finished top of the group along with Cloud9. RNG would be seeded against the 3rd seed from EU, G2 Esports, who had barely gotten out of their group, finishing 3-3. This should be an easy win for RNG. However, sadly, RNG would see an early exit from Worlds as they would lose to G2 3-2. This was the same Worlds that would see NA for the first time making it to the semifinals in the form of Cloud9, who had defeated a Freaker Freaks, the Korean 2nd seed, 3-0, but would then be defeated by EU's Fnatic 3-0. This was the same Worlds that would see LPL's 2nd seed in Invictus Gaming, who RNG had beaten in the summer split finals, win it all, taking home the World Championship and capturing LPL's first ever World Championship. This was probably the loss that hurt the most for Uzi. The subsequent spring season would be pretty disappointing for RNG, finishing 4th at 10-5. RNG would be eliminated in the playoffs in the first round by JD Gaming 3-2. Invictus Gaming would go on to win that season. The following summer season would be a bit more decent for RNG, finishing third in the season at 12-3. RNG would defeat LNG Esports 3-1, then face Top Esports 3-1 to advance to the finals, where they would be defeated by Fun plus Phoenix 3-1. Worlds 2019 would probably be the most disappointing Worlds in Uzi's career, and for reasons we will discuss later, would be the last event he would participate in. RNG would be placed in a group along with Korea's first seed, SKT, EU's second seed, Fnatic, and NA's third seed, Clutch Gaming. RNG would finish third in the group at 3-3, being eliminated from Worlds. This would be the same Worlds where, for the second time in a row, LPL would win, in the form of Fun plus Phoenix, who would defeat G2 3-0. Uzi would not participate in the 2020 spring split, being replaced by Betty. RNG would finish pretty mediocre at 7th with an 8-8 record, and would be eliminated in playoffs by EDG 3-1. Then would come the announcement. On June 2nd, 2020, Uzi would make a post on his Weibo account announcing his retirement. He states that his reasons for his retirement are his mounting wrist injuries and his complications with his diabetics. Uzi had been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in 2019. In the announcement, translated loosely from Chinese to English, Uzi stated that his hemoglobin index, which is just another word for A1C, had reached 11%, which a normal hemoglobin index should be less than or equal to 6.5. He had been attempting to change his diet, exercise more, and take medications, but his situation didn't improve as well as he and his doctor had hoped for. He was advised to skip 2020 spring, then after, a decision was made. This marked the end of an era of League of Legends, an era in which Uzi was the greatest player in the world, and he is arguably still the best player in the world. He rivals players like Khan, Doinby, Madlife, and even Faker. I would consider him the best player ever and will ever live. His accomplishments and the effort he put in to get those accomplishments are insane, and the amount of time that he's put into his competitive career is just ludicrous. I just don't think we'll see another player like him. Maybe he doesn't have a lot of LPL titles. Maybe he doesn't have a lot of international wins. Maybe he doesn't have a world championship. But that's okay. So if you decide to watch some old League of Legends highlights and happen to catch a glimpse of a man who formerly played for RNG named Uzi, you can stop for a moment and appreciate him, because there may never ever be another player like him. But hey, at least we got some good plays.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
Punish gets caught up by that one. Dreadline comes through, immediately removed. Uzi now trying to run around this fight long. He's the next focus, he's going to die. Uzi tumbling forward, picks up a double already. His heart, he's going to get taken down. It's a triple quadra kill for Uzi now. Skaki getting blacked on. It's a penta kill for Uzi's Bane. And OMG, they're going to win the game. And that was half as well, Uzi. Go on, give me something.